I'll see artists like Michelangelo and I'll read his letters, and he struggled with the same thing, and he's like the best artist ever.
It's difficult to describe when you are having experience. Este capítulo tenemos un podcast con Tessa Davison, una profesora en Harding y alguien que yo considero que es una persona bastante increíble y que tenemos que darnos el chance de conocer. Hello, Tessa.
Hola.
Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I am an artist. I'm an art professor. I love looking at art. I love talking about art. I love making art. And I love having conversations with other artists. So this is perfect.
Thank you. How do you begin with art? How's art in your life?
You know, a lot of other artists that I meet, it began early in their childhood. Early on, I just was always drawing. I loved making art. So when I was 10, I decided this is what I want to do for my life, the rest of my life. I want to be teaching art. I want to be making art. And so I had the opportunity to study it and pursue it. Now I teach art and make art. So it's been great. But yeah, that's been kind of my journey into it. It's just ever since I was a kid.
And with all the art you have done, what is the message you want to transmit?
I've always seen my work as a way of trying to put form and visuals on things that are important to me and things I've spent a lot of time thinking about. And so for me personally, a lot of that is based on spiritual reflection or ideas or things that God has taught me and things that I'm reflecting out on the world, and I'm noticing things. It's like I almost like look out on the world and I want to push pause on that. Like, let me push pause, the way the light hits and the colors of that. And let me push pause on these ideas. And just so we can just be thinking about this longer. I think our world is too fast. And so art helps us slow down. And so for me, I want my art to be a way in which I can express just the beautiful truths that God has revealed to me and put form on those ideas.
In my case,
the message I want to transmit.
It's like it depends in the feeling. And also, I think that's another topic. If the people or the human paint or create art
Because of
emotions or just to give a message.
Yeah, you're right. That does seem to and so I teach art history. And so I'm constantly looking back at all of these great artists and looking at what motivated them. And it's really interesting to see how artists throughout time are motivated by different things. So some use art as a vehicle of expression. You think about great artists like Vincent van Gogh, who would go and have these experiences and then wanted to capture those experiences and express himself through his paint. Whereas other artists are really wound up in trying to communicate ideas and things outside of themselves, things that they see and observe in human society and religion, and they want to put form on those ideas. So it's so interesting at how artists are motivated by different things and how we're expressing different things.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes you cannot find a difference between a picture and a drawing. So what is the difference between a camera and a person? And I think it's that, the feeling, the emotions, and something that hasn't been discovered. And Van Gogh was known for that.
Yeah, and that's interesting that you bring up photography, because with people like Vincent van Gogh, they were living at a time where the camera was just being popularized and utilized. And so it kind of threw painting into an identity crisis. And so you had all these artists that were wondering, well, what can painting do that photography can't?
Yeah.
And so one of those responses was, it can give a human response. It can express things in different ways. You can still do that with a camera, and photography can be very expressive, but the painter has the ability to just right then change the colors and change the way that something is formed and use and stretch things out, or and just do a lot of different things and edits right there in order to express certain ideas. So it's pretty cool.
What do you have in mind when you are painting?
What I'm thinking about when I'm painting? Well, I guess it depends. I find the act of painting or the act of making art, whether I'm drawing or, working out things digitally, just the process of making things, that allows me to process a lot of things. And this is why a lot of people are drawn to art therapy and just working with your hands. Whenever you start working with your hands, it gives you an opportunity to process the day, process your life. And so I find it to be a very needed thing in my life in order to process things like making art. If I stop making art for a while, then I miss it and become almost angry because I'm like, I need my outlet in order to process things. So I'm often thinking about things. A lot of times I'll listen to audiobooks and I'll be thinking about what the book is about, and that'll give me a chance to contemplate those ideas, or I'll listen to podcasts sometimes. So sometimes just a lot of different things, but it is really important for me to just process that, your experience as well. Yeah.
When I'm painting, I like 200 RPM, thinking about everything I have in my summer. For example, I'm thinking about the last semester,
Yeah.
everything I did, all the memories. Yeah. And I also like it changes my perspective of painting and it's shaping my style. I think every new piece I do, it tells a different story in my life.
That's neat that you're starting to see that coming through your work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something that I totally feel. The next question is about a recommendation or a message to the artists that sometimes feel that they are not enough, like they are not the artists they want to be.
I would just say this is extremely common. I've been going at this for, over 2 decades, and I've experienced this a lot in my own journey as an artist. Just these feelings of being inadequate, or feeling like a fraud, or feeling like there's so many artists that are much better. What am I even doing? I'm kidding myself. It's a constant struggle that a lot of creatives have. Because you're constantly having to go within and churn out and then put stuff out in the world, and you're very vulnerable. And it's just such a unique role as an artist to do this kind of thing. And so what's really interesting is I'll look back on history and I'll see artists like Michelangelo, and I'll read his letters. And he struggled with the same thing. And he's like the best artist ever. And so to me, it gives me a lot of comfort knowing, okay, one, I'm not the only one that is struggling. It's a very common thing, even for the greatest artists. They struggle with self-doubt and self-criticism. But also knowing that for me, what helps is remembering my purpose and remembering in my life how God has opened up things, and I feel a sense of no, this is where He wants me, and this is what He wants me to do, and so I trust that, and that's allowed me to have more confidence in those times of self-doubt. But it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah, I think it's a pressure that we put in ourselves.
Yeah,
and it's difficult to describe when you haven't experienced it.
It's definitely difficult for others to understand, because they can look at it and be like, oh, it's so good. And all sometimes the artist looks at is all the flaws and all of the ways in which they fall short. So it's important for artists to give themselves grace and to not be so hard on themselves. I think that's important too.
Yeah. Where do you think art is going with artificial intelligence?
Oh, all of these technological advances and changes that are really reshaping the role of art and the artists and traditional forms. So I know there's a lot of pessimism out there, and I think that we should be concerned about unethical use of styles and things that can sometimes surface in the use of some of these AI tools. But at the same time, just looking back at history and seeing how throughout all of history, there have always been technological advances. Exactly. And so recognizing that art will never go away. Like, we've had art as long as we've had human beings. There's never been a time in history where you have humans and you don't have art. It's something that we've always had. I think what's going to happen is we might see a shift where you have more of an emphasis on traditional media. I don't know, just whenever you see pendulum swing in history, if you have a time in history like with digital art and AI art, you're going to see see the need or the response to have more handmade things and more experiences instead of something that's just experience on a screen. And so to me, that's what I'm predicting in the 21st century is that if you're inundated with a lot of digital stuff on screens, there might be a shift to where people are going to want to have more physical, tangible, traditional media. And so I don't think any of that's going away. We're just going to see more and more outlets for people to be creative.
It's important also to know about this because it's informative, and I believe what you said is totally right. Because through the evolution and human, and we have been experiencing this all the time, that we have a change and we don't accept it, and that's part of
it is.
evolution.
Yeah, we're always suspicious about change, and so some are all about embracing change. Some are conservative. They want to keep traditions. And you kind of need to have both the caution and, the excitement of potential.
Because we need to be careful about what we don't know.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So like one of the things that I'm concerned about when it comes to for artists, there are a lot of AI processes that can help people generate ideas, but it sometimes does the work for them. And then if artists are only using AI to generate ideas, then they're not developing that own muscle themselves. So, it will stunt some of their own personal creative growth if they use some of those tools at certain points in their development. And it's kind of like you have to know when to use the technology and when to hold back and train yourself in certain ways. And so those are just some things that we have to be aware of. We don't want to reject all technology and say, well, it's all bad or whatever. But we also want to use wisdom in how we use some of the tools and in our own creative development.
Another question.
Yeah.
How would you describe your style?
My style? Well, I'm a realist painter, so I like working with realism, representational art. So you look at it and it looks lifelike. But I also love bringing in just imagination and sometimes fantastic elements, and to where you can tell it's a painting and you can tell that it's something that was conjured up in one's mind. It doesn't just look like a replication of a photograph. So I love artwork where the human form is center, and so a central part of the composition. I also love it when it's poetic and somewhat absurd, and it just makes you stop and kind of puzzle at the forms. I love work when it's symbolic. And so those are just things that I enjoy about looking at art. And so that comes up in my own artwork. And that's the beauty of art, is that we all are kind of called into different modes of expression. And we've all been kind of given a unique voice in which we can express different kinds of things to the world. And so I'm so glad that you've been able to grab a hold of what your style is, because that's something that didn't come up for me until later on in life. I didn't really figure out my style until I was in my 30s. So kudos to you.
Yeah. And well, I don't know where I'm going, because I don't know, right now I feel I do have any style. I feel I just discovered it. So okay. I feel like that, and it's crazy because 2 years ago I was looking for it.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I'm glad you saw that, because that's like part of the artist journey.
It is.
Yeah. So also, I'm so glad I invited you.
I love your work, Guido, and I'm a huge fan of your style, of your passion, and what you're putting out in the world. And so this is such a joy for me to, join you in this conversation, talk about art, and I hope that we're able to continue to have these conversations in the future.
Thank you so much. I think you are amazing, and you are the best person to choose an interview. So thank you.
Well, I'm honored to be here.